Moneyball's Merritt back again. Now we're talking assessments for the squat. In terms of the FMS, we're going to be looking at the deep squat screen. And the deep squat screen is going to be starting off standing with our heels against the board, feet at shoulder width apart. Essentially, our armpit should come right down to our foot. We're going to have the dowel on top of our head with our elbows bent at 90 degrees. And we're going to press the dowel all the way straight overhead. From here, we're going to try and keep our feet pointed directly straight ahead, not let our heels come up, not let the dowel travel forward in front of our toes, and we're going to squat as deeply as we can. You'll see I'm not going to get there. I'm looking to see, can I get my hips below parallel without my feet turning out, without the dowel traveling forward in front of my toes. Since I can't, I'm going to keep all the positions the same, but now I'm going to elevate my heels on the board. Same exact rules apply. I'm going to see, can I do all of that from here now? And you can see much better, no issues there. So what does that mean? Well, that I always need a heel lift when I squat? Maybe, but not necessarily. Being overhead is greatly challenging my mobility. So let's get rid of that and see what changes. So now I go back to feet flat on the floor, toes pointed straight ahead, and maybe I'll just go arms out. And same thing, can I squat now below parallel and return to the start? And yes, I can. If that's still not working for someone, you could have them do a reaching squat and see, depending on what you get. And then you could also obviously elevate the heels again, same thing, and see. So now you have more information in terms of putting people in the best position to be successful when it comes to programming their squats. And now, good old Toddles and I are going to show you progressions to program for people.
12 gauge aluminum foil with some kind of shitty paint on it. That's good stuff.
Remington, 12 gauge.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know about you guys, but I think we'd like to talk about squatting right now. And we're going to do that. And we're going to see how low Moneyballs can get his chain to the ground. Probably how close we can get him to his actual balls. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing we're going to walk through is setup and how to get your feet at a good width and also at a good external rotation angle, easy for me to say. And then also what your depth should look and feel like. So the first thing we're going to use is an iso squat. The way that we do this at our gym is we have people just find their own squat initially. We say, hey, you know what, just show me your squat and go down into the deepest position that you can without worrying about anything. Don't worry about your back, nothing like that. So go ahead.
Resting squat right now?
What?
Like a resting squat right now?
What do you mean by that?
Like drop, like...
Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay. God, this guy. Anyway, I want you to hold your arms straight out in front of you, and I want you to slowly rise as you push out and try to spread the floor. When you feel like you can really spread, stop there. Good. Now get as tall as you can. Good, and hold that position. Now, that's how we help people find their bottom position. Go ahead and stand up for me. And here's the deal. The actual depth is going to change depending on the implement, but we want to feel like we can really spread the floor in the bottom position, because that means that we're actually actively engaged in the movement and we're not hanging out on passive elements like our soft tissues or our joints. So not soft tissues, because muscle is obviously soft tissue, but our ligaments and our connective tissues, because that's just undue stress and we really don't own that movement then. So then how do we figure out what is a good position? So Chris, go ahead and face the camera for me. Now, like we did with the sumo deadlift, we want the knee to line up right over the middle of the foot, the second and third toes.
Chain got caught in the beard.
How'd that feel?
Did not feel good.
Do you want to say anything about it?
I'm good, we can move on.
Okay. So between the second and third toes, we want that alignment. Now, we find the width, the combination of width and external rotation that allows a person to do that, while also sinking into a good squat with their hips, so they're moving at their hips, not at their low back, and they can segment out movement from their hips and their spine. So that's how we know we're setting somebody up in a good squat. Then from there, we actually teach them to squat with different plate squat variations. So we're going to do that. So Chris is going to go ahead and grab that 10-pound plate behind him. Very gentlemanly, thank you, sir. And he's going to squat now. Now, with our, we have a mantra for this. It's called RSD, just like we do with the hip hinge. It's reach, spread, and drive. Now, reach, there's a caveat for that. We're not necessarily saying that you got to reach your ass the whole way back here like you're hinging. Even if you're going to relatively stay straight up and down, your hips still have to travel backwards at least some to keep you in a good alignment. So no matter if you're doing a straight 12 to 6 type of squat, unless you're some kind of unicorn, your hips are going to have to go backwards first, okay? The second is spread. So spread the floor. That means pretend there's some kind of invisible fissure between your legs, and you're trying to spread that apart by pushing out with your feet to activate the lateral part of your hips, to keep your hips in a good position and also create some tension. And then drive, just like with the deadlift, we're going to drive our feet into the floor to bring us back up, okay? So RSD on this bitch. Money balls, reach and spread and drive. So the plate is going to teach him, give him a counterbalance while also activating all of this nice stuff without having to say, hey man, get tight, activate your core, do all that stuff, personal trainer. And then we can do it and we can do different variations of this. So he just did a regular reaching plate squat. We can do it at the bottom and just hold an isometric there. Go ahead and squat down. And go ahead and do some presses out there to really teach people to own the bottom position and try to perturb them out of it. Or he can hold it straight out the whole time and do squats like that. If you really want people to learn how to reach and activate the muscles around their shoulder blades for breathing, all of that very nice stuff. You couldn't see my face there for a minute, could you? Sorry about that.
Terrible.
It's a good looking face. My mom tells me all the time. So that's the plate squat. Now we can put that down if you don't mind, Chris, thank you. Go ahead and grab that kettlebell. Then from there we can start to actually load it and work on fitness and do a goblet squat. Okay, if you're unfamiliar, there's a couple different ways to hold it. Chris is holding it this way. Chris, show him the other way. Good. So now, tension with the sucker. One of the big things that people miss out on with, that's not a goblet squat anymore. What are you doing? I don't need your show off shit right now. All right, guy? Can we just fucking do the video?
It works. I'm just experimenting. In the moment.
I don't need your in the moment shit. All right. A couple different ways to create tension. If you're going to hold it this way, you're going to try to crush the ball of the kettlebell. Just crush it in. Do it, Conan. Crush it.
What if it breaks?
Not a problem. I can promise you. You're still going to pretend like you have $1 million checks underneath your armpits, so you don't lose that. Now he's going to flip it over and hold it the other way. Good. Now he's going to try to rip the handles off, rip it in half. All the while, $1 million checks. Now from here, the squat is the squat is the squat. We figured out a good setup. We figured out a good position. He's going to reach, spread, and drive into that bottom position. I don't know if you noticed that, but I just almost accidentally touched Chris's money balls when I was slapping his leg. So sorry about that. Go ahead, buddy.
Don't be sorry. You're welcome.
I'm welcome. Yeah, whatever. Good. And that is a goblet squat. Cool. I'm going to preface, go ahead and relax. I'm going to preface the rest of this by saying, really, a squat is a squat is a squat is a squat. It might change if you move from a front squat to a back squat because you might have to translate your hips backwards more when you back squat. But really the only difference you're going to see, at least from our point of view, is when you go to do a box squat because that's more like a hip hinge because your shins stay vertical. So we're really just showing you different variations so that you can understand that a squat is a squat depending on no matter where you put the implement. Okay, so we're going to move on to a Zercher squat, which we really like because it takes a lot of the mobility constraints that people have out of it. You're just going to hold that sucker in the crook of your arms. You're going to get real tall. Just let it hang. Don't worry about trying to pull it back into your body and just try to squeeze the bar from that position and then you're going to just do your squat. Go ahead. Some people like to try to turn this into a really hingy good morning squat. We don't really do that. Sometimes you can even stay a little bit more upright with a Zercher squat than other squats, but that's really it. You're going to do the same process. Find position, you're going to hold it there and stay tight.
All right, so we're going to jump back in with front squat. So do it a couple different ways. Chris is going to walk through clean grip, and he's also going to do cross grip. We're fine with either. The biggest thing is when you're creating your rack, you want to think about pushing your elbows towards the wall to really create a rack with your shoulder blade wrapped around your rib cage and nice and stable. Chris, Money Balls Merritt, about to show you. He's gonna stay nice and tall. So a lot of folks will coach you on like trying to push your elbows in like this, but really that's not as stable. It's much more stable to keep a good rack by pushing your elbows forward. Then he's gonna squat. Reach and spread and drive. That's it. He's gonna walk back in. We typically don't have people squat this way, like facing out of the rack. We're just doing it for demonstration's sake, because it's easier for you to see. Ready? Do it. Still gonna punch his elbows forward. He's gonna reach and spread and drive. And also not kill himself walking backwards. So that is the front squat. Now, we're gonna move on to the safety bar squat. No, we're not. We're gonna do the back squat real quick. I'm lying to you. Yeah, while we're here, we're gonna do back squat. So here's the deal with back squat. We don't use it very often, mostly only for people that are unicorns that can really use it, or people that are powerlifting, which are sometimes both happen, because there's a lot of people that don't have the raw materials to back squat. They don't have the extensibility through their T-spine. They don't have the shoulder mobility. They don't have the hips they need. So really we're just loading something that's just walking them right towards an injury. So for us, we mostly use goblet squats, safety bar squats, and Zercher squats and front squats. So we're showing you this so you have a good counterpoint, but also if you really have someone that can do it, you can coach it, okay? So he's gonna get his elbows under the bar as much as he can. He's gonna get his wrists as straight as he can. And you're gonna watch his hips are gonna have to translate back a little bit more than on the front squat. So go ahead, Chris. He's gonna reach and spread and drive. And it's gonna lean him over. Chris doesn't have the T-spine extensibility to be able to stay really straight upright as he does a back squat. So eventually, if Chris did a lot of this, he's gonna end up probably with some back pain because he just doesn't have the raw materials. But the rudiments of the squat stay the same. He's gonna get tall and tight, he's gonna reach and spread, he's gonna spread and drive. But the angles change because putting the bar on your back creates some more demands for your body that the other squats don't create. Like we said, more hip mobility, more upper back mobility, and more shoulder mobility, range of motion, whatever the hell you wanna call it. Cool. We got one more squat for you. We're gonna do the safety bar squat. Big things with this sucker is we're gonna keep those yokes parallel to the ground. These, move your arm please. Can you move? Thank you. These are the yokes, these guys, okay? We're gonna keep those as parallel to the ground as possible, and we're gonna work on keeping our forearm perpendicular, okay? So go ahead. He's gonna walk that sucker out, elbows underneath his hands, and then he's gonna reach, spread, and drive. It's just a squat as a squat as a squat as a squat. Notice how the yokes stay parallel with the ground, forearms are relatively perpendicular, and he's doing some reps. Moneyball's doing some reps. Cool. And that is the safety bar squat. And that concludes the squat segment of the movement instruction videos.
That's pretty good.
Doot, dooty doot.